Okay, so let us begin the first topic, which is about talking about the welfare state. So it's about Indian society on the whole, but talking about the aspect of welfare. So if you ask me, my ideal would be a society based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. These are the three pillars on which Ambedkar would like society to be based, and one cannot exist without the other. This was Ambedkar's view of social democracy. So through the directive principles of state policy, the Constitution of India laid out, as we know, DPSP, the Constitution of India laid out the social economic conditions under which citizens can lead a good life. So these principles establish social and economic democracy, as we already know. Fundamental rights guarantee political democracy through a welfare state. So here comes the idea of linking it to a DPSP, social and economic democracy, connecting it with the welfare state. Now, some articles such as 38, 41, 46, 47 of Part 4 of the Constitution are especially relevant in this regard. So Article 38 specifically directs the state to secure a social order. Now, it is clearly mentioning that the state has to secure a social order in Article 38, and then promotion of welfare of the people. So clearly laid out welfare state. And then Article 41 deals with right to work, again a very crucial right. Right to education, to public assistance in certain cases. Again, 41 becomes important. 46 aims for promotion of educational and economic interest of the scheduled castes and weaker sections, and 47 lays down it as a duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and the standards of living and to improve public health. So this is about some articles where state has to play a role now to promote a welfare state. Now, coming to certain values, if you see equity and equality, so these are in a way built in the fundamental rights. Also, equity and equality, both the concepts have fairness as a basis. So, fairness, if you see, is the basis for both equity and equality. There should be fair treatment of people, but through different means. So, means may be different, but ultimately, fairness is the basis. The fairness is the value comes out here. If a full-grown adult and a child are trying to reach out to something kept at a certain height, while the adult can simply lift the hand not to touch it, the child would need assistance of a pedestal to reach that level. No, it's just a simple analogy they are trying to give. Now, treating them both equal by not providing the pedestal to the child is what equality emphasizes upon. So treating them both equal by not providing the pedestal to the child. That's what equality. So equality is treating everyone alike. Equity is about giving equal opportunity. So this is a key dimension that we must note, that equal opportunity. When you talk, it's about equity. It's about giving equal opportunity to the child, as well as through an aid which will help attain the desired height. So we must provide equal opportunity, so through some aid. So this equitable society is something which the vision of Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya is what? Welfare for all. When talking about welfare state, talk about Sarvodaya, our concept, which is welfare for all. Antyodaya. So Antyodaya specifically talks about equity, where you must reach the last mile, and then Sabka Vikas call. Everyone should benefit. So there is a large section of marginalized communities, which mainly include. So there's a large section of some marginalized communities, which include the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes and senior citizens. So this we must remember that there's a large section of marginalized communities, which include the scheduled caste, which includes the scheduled tribe, backward classes, senior citizens, differently abled, nomadic, semi-nomadic, transgender, beggars. No, these are the marginalized sections of the whose voice often go unheard. They're voiceless. So since independence, society and governments have been making sustained efforts at every level to mainstream them. So the Union Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment was constituted to enable the same objective. So we have a ministry dedicated for social justice, as we are aware, and empowerment. Look at the word social justice and empowerment. That itself speaks a lot. The lack of facilities and opportunities. Again, coming to the aspect of opportunities, there's a certain lack of facilities and opportunities for individuals prevent them from developing their full potential. So you need to provide them opportunities. You need to provide them facilities. So India still faces a long road ahead in the quest to achieve targets such as zero hunger. This is one of the SDG targets. Over 25 years since India ushered into its economic reforms, the country's economy has undergone significant structural transformation. So, there's a transformation in the economy, encouraging planners to turn their focus away from agriculture. So, because of the LPG reforms, the focus sometimes gets to turn away from agriculture and instead towards the service and manufacturing sector. So, this is a structural transformation which has occurred in the economy. The priority is now to return the attention to agriculture. So here they're talking about the returning aspect, that we must again return to agriculture and its central role in providing food security. So this must be acknowledged. Agriculture has a very central role to play, in terms of providing food security. So agriculture link it to farmers' welfare, link it to food security, link it to poverty alleviation, and also link it to rural employment generation. So this is the larger theme under which agriculture largely runs, not only about food, poverty, employment, regional development. I mean backwardness. Such is the role of agriculture. So various interventions are in place, including the legislative measures to promote. Talking about the laws perspective, so legislative measures. To promote with special care the educational and economic interests of weaker section of the people of the SCs and STs. We provide reservation for them, protecting them from social injustices such as the CST Atrocities Act, the Prevention of Civil Liberties Act, and also all forms of exploitation, such as even the untouchability. So the endeavors have been taken to bring about prohibition of the consumption except for medicinal purposes, intoxicating drugs, intoxicating drinks and of drugs which are injurious to health. So new and more interventions strategies are needed in this regard. A system needs an approach that brings together the community and strengthens its collective response towards the drug use as part of the social justice objective they've written it. So public policy shifting towards social model of disability. Shifting towards social model of disability is a way, is a new way forward for building the disabled inclusive. So when we talk about inclusiveness, it has to be disabled inclusive also. Societies, disability inclusive societies will have public policies that are not merely accommodative to persons with disabilities. Rather, they celebrate and welcome individual differences. Exactly, we are embracing the uh, disabled people. That is the reason why disabled inclusive societies is not only about accommodation. It's not just accommodate them. We must welcome them. We must respect for their differences while being sensitive. So we're also being sensitive in that case towards the spectrum of human differences. So differences, diversity, one acknowledges the world is going through an unprecedented crisis owing to COVID 19. It becomes even more important or imperative to build an inclusive society. How can we build an inclusive society? Through education, through economic, through social development, and rehabilitation wherever necessary. So, this is the perspective with respect to the welfare aspect of society, where initially they talked about the welfare aspect from the constitutional perspective, and then certain values needed for building welfare, equity and equality, fairness being one thing, and giving equal opportunities. Especially talking about social justice, talk about marginalized communities, how create inclusive spaces, and what happens if there is lack of facilities and opportunities, despite the and bring to the current context of 25 years since India ushered the economic reforms. And here we talk about how we need to focus on agriculture even today. Attention must shift towards agriculture because of its central role in providing food security, poverty, farmers' welfare, generating employment, all such things. Overall rural development, we can say. And then certain laws have been there, but at the same time, we're talking one aspect about disability. So here they conclude that in order to build an inclusive society, through social, economic, and educational development. Because we generally attribute the backwardness to socio-educational backwardness. Now, add an aspect of economic because we are really living in a materialistic world, and rehabilitation wherever necessary. So, this is our first article about welfare state. So, the next perspective is on the new world order. As we know, this is a previous essay topic also. Let us see how the author unfolds the topic new world order. Because we're in a pandemic living world, it's a once in a century crisis. Pandemic. Start with the pandemic. The pandemic has changed the world and its order. The world, which was earlier grappled with issues like climate change, poverty, migration, terrorism, nuclear weapons, has kept everything else, on back burner. So COVID has taken center stage, uh, you know, on above all these issues. The health emergency and its ramifications are the center stage today. This unprecedented situation. So again, emphasize that it is unprecedented. World view has redefined. So it has redefined the international relations role of India would play in the coming years to come. So talking about the overall issue, how COVID came to center stage despite other issues. There's climate change, poverty, there's terrorism, there is migration, forced migration many times, and nuclear weapons. And with Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, our philosophy that world is one family, as a basic tenet of foreign policy, India is committed to work towards paving a road ahead with world in a post-pandemic era. Simultaneously, it has to safeguard its interest. So this also is there that when we see world as one family and working towards it, we must also safeguard our interest of its own, that is of our own, by achieving self-reliance. So we must become strong first, reaffirming its presence in the international trade. So how we become strong by growing internally, by transforming ourselves, by removing the weaknesses in the inherent, by becoming self-reliant, and this is how one can become strong, by being self-reliant. So self-reliance is a symbol of strength. A special issue of Yojana covers our foreign policy relations through the lens of distinguished authors. We have present and former foreign secretaries sharing their opinions on the face of Indian foreign policy, its challenges, and the way forward in the pandemic era. As Foreign Secretary has aptly put it in his article, so this is a key perspective which he's sharing. India has been a constructive actor in developing an international system. So India has always been a constructive actor, and that is a human-centric phase. We've always worked together with partner countries in sharing our developmental experiences. So we have catalyzed the emergence of international organizations with constructive forward-facing agendas, such as when you talk about forward-facing agendas, looking ahead of the times. For example, the International Solar Alliance, are apt time because of the Paris climate change, and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, because resilience is what is needed, because disasters are inevitable. So these are the forward-facing constructive agendas which we are taking up, and then trade and commerce being the cornerstone. Now, as we take picking up one component. So trade and commerce are the cornerstone of international relations. Being the cornerstone of international relations is given exhaustive coverage through the evolution of India's trade, intricacies of its negotiations, greater role envisaged for organizations like WTO, strengthening multilateralism, agreements like GATT, and pertinent issues like H-1B visa. This is one aspect of trade. And coming to the foreign policy, we see about the neighborhood first policy. India has strategic ties with its neighbors and also has been involved in development diplomacy. This is what we call, we are involved in development diplomacy against Chinese, comparison of debt trap diplomacy. So our diplomacy is development diplomacy. Example, Afghanistan is a very good example in the current context, with many of them since time. Also, it has played integral role in strengthening the multilateral relations among the nations in the subcontinent. So, with major powers, India has sustained mutually beneficial relations which furthers its global interest. So there are a global interest which is being furthered. India has also strengthened its engagement with other nations, reflecting on its rising global footprint. So as a nation grows, as India's footprint increases, we must also engage with other countries. Uh, you know, in a rising situation. So during the pandemic, India sent, coming to the specific pandemic context, what India did to the world. So India sent medical supplies to over 150 countries. We've deployed certain rapid response teams in different countries and held more than 100 virtual diplomatic meetings. The well coordinated Vande Bharat mission is also being appreciated worldwide. So this is one perspective of a well-coordinated Vande Bharat mission. So Indian diaspora is probably one of the world's largest and most dynamic and oldest diaspora. So it's probably one of the world's largest, most dynamic, and oldest, diaspora communities. They're contributing to the economies of. This is one aspect of diaspora which are picking up. Largest, oldest, and more dynamic because of its maybe age, contribution to the economy and such things. They contribute to economies of both India uh, and the country they reside. They also act as bridge, in augmenting mutual ties and strengthen the intersocial relations. Higher education exchange is another avenue where Indians are exploring new horizons uh, and are carving out niche for themselves. So the new education policy also highlights this by encouraging foreign universities to come up and open campuses in India. So this is how we are embracing, trying to call up the best to come and invest. Set up their campuses in India. So Gandhiji in 1924 wrote that my ambition is nothing less than to see international relations placed on moral basis through India's efforts. He believed that there was no limit, to extending our services to our neighbors across state-made frontiers. God never, made these frontiers. He wrote Young India in 1925. It is impossible for one to be internationalist without being a nationalist. So that's what he told. Without being an international, it is impossible for one to be an internationalist without being a nationalist. So first you have to become nationalist, and then you must become internationalist. So the whole perspective of international relations shared. We talk about how the COVID took the center stage. Other issues of the globe at large we must pick up, and then our philosophy towards the world, and then India's role, constructive role, especially the forward-facing agendas, human-centric nature, trade, the neighborhood policy, the developmental diplomacy, which we are playing global interest, and we are rising global footprint. We are engaging with other countries, and how during the pandemic our vaccine Maitri policy, uh, with various virtual diplomatic meetings, took place across the world, and also talking about the diaspora. So, we're one of the largest, most dynamic, oldest diaspora in the world, higher education exchange, as well as the new education policies philosophy of encouraging universities to set up campuses in India. So God never made these frontiers. So Gandhi tells that God never made these frontiers. So so why should we have such differences, and international relations should be placed on a moral basis. So he wrote in Young India, it is impossible for one to be internationalist without being a nationalist. So this is the perspective here. Now, this is a very interesting perspective on ethics, which the magazine is trying to share. So, ethics and integrity, a talisman. So, I will give you a talisman. Whenever you are in doubt, or when the self becomes too much with you, apply the following test. So, this is a talisman which Gandhi is giving to us. Recall the face of the poorest, the weakest man or woman whom you may have seen, and ask for yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to him or her. Will he or she gain anything by it? Will it restore him to a control over his or her own life and destiny? In other words, will it lead to Swaraj, freedom for the hungry, spirit and spiritually starving millions? Till then, you'll you till then you will find your doubts and yourself melt away. So this is the talisman which Gandhi is trying to give to us, that whenever you are in doubt or yourself becomes too much within you, so you can recall the face of the poorest person, the weakest person, and then you contemplate that whatever step you take, is it going to be any use to him? Will he benefit out of it? Will it restore him to control over his own life and destiny? So, in other words, will it lead to a Swaraj, freedom for the weakest, or the hungry, and spiritually starving millions? So, this is the talisman which Gandhi is giving to us. So, let us begin. This is largely about ethics perspective, the truth, values, and compassion. Truth, values, compassion, and empathy. So, almost all the values mentioned in syllabus, are few virtues that define one's character. So, how do you define a person's character? Through the values he possesses. Personality is outward oriented, but character is something innate. So, integrity is consistent and uncompromising. So, after these values, talk about integrity. Integrity is consistent and uncompromising adherence to such strong moral and ethical principles and values. The word integrity is derived from the Latin word integer, which means whole. So, without it, no one is no one is complete. So it's a whole. No, it's just talking about the complete thing. One might possess exceptional abilities. No, you might have a very good skill set. You might have wealth a lot, and be rich, and be very brilliant, intelligent. But if has compromised integrity, so if he has compromised integrity, then every other quality is seen and out. So that is why integrity is so important. That integrity should never be uncompromised. That is why it is called uncompromising adherence. So if integrity is compromised, principles are compromised, and everything is compromised. So whether it is professional or personal life, whether it's public or corporate, higher ups or a humble daily wager, good conduct and ethics, good conduct and ethics are irrespective, of what you are or who you are dealing with. So this is the aspect of it. So the moral conviction of one's beliefs and values stay undiminished. This is about it, that moral convictions of one's beliefs and values, they stay undiminished under all circumstances. That's what remains. As British writer C.S. Lewis has put it aptly, integrity is doing the right thing when no one is looking at. When nobody else is looking at me, how do I act? That shows my integrity. So from today, start practicing integrity. This judgment of right and wrong, what to do and what not to do, and how one is ought to act from ethics. They form the ethics. Ethics are about judgment. Uh, what is right and wrong, what to do and what not to do. These will be based on certain values and principles. They are moral principles which govern the individual. Now, the question may occur that can they differ from one person to another? This is a very pertinent question. Is normally asked that can they differ from one person to other? What one perceives may be right, may be wrong for the other. As we talk about circumstances, here comes the role of intent. So, if that is the case, then comes the role of intent in such a situation. So, if a decision went wrong but was taken with good intent and mindfulness, so good intent and mindfulness if taken. So, this adding a caveat of mindfulness. Mindfulness shows the state of awareness, self-awareness as well as social awareness. So, if good intent and mindfulness is there, it might still fall within the ambit of moral behavior. To err is human. So, this ambit it covers, right? So, but any step taken to harm someone, if there's an intention to harm under compromised values and ill intent, it is certainly not an ethical conduct. So here, what may be right for one, wrong for another, is also depending on the intention, whether he has good intention or bad intention. What is motives? So here, that concept comes up, and then the moral compass of individuals may fall differently in a spectrum of value system. They may judge situations differently, right? Situation and perceive immorality or scope to be lesser morals. So scope to be lesser morals in given situations and might remain inconsistent, in their overall approach. It may sound subjective and prescriptive, but well-intended ethical behavior has no substitute. So this we must always keep in mind that there is no substitute to a well-intended ethical behavior. It decides for one's dependability and truthfulness. So, as they say, if you tell the truth, you do not have to remember anything. Exactly. If you tell the truth, you do not have to remember anything. That is the nature of value system. It empowers you. When it comes to an organization, be it public or private, picking different sets of people under the same ethical behavior is even more important, as each of them is the face of the organization. If one wrongdoing from one can affect the whole organization. So here comes the aspect of work ethics. Talking about organization, talk about work ethics of each individual along with the implementation of code. So for this, we have stringent codes of conduct citizen charter, code of ethics without any exceptions govern the ethical work culture. If you trust a brand, you start trusting its products. Alternatively, if you find a quality product, you look forward to other products of the brand, and trust is built on the overall brand. Same goes for the organization. It is a similar thing. You should trust a brand, you should start trusting its product. You find its product very qualitative. We'll also look forward to other products from the same brand. It enhances the value of the brand. So this trust is built on the overall brand. The same goes for the organization also. So this edition of Yojana is an extremely relevant theme, collects and recalls knowledge and wisdom possessed by great minds. It attempts to answer doubts, dilemmas, and analyze situations, defining ethical conduct and integrity in various spheres of life. So this is about. I think Yojana team is hopeful that this edition would in help you in the when in doubt situations of your life, and guide you towards the righteous conduct. So, as we see here, they're trying to build that how Gandhi gave his talisman of how to act. What is right or wrong? Use this Gandhian talisman and then apply whether your action is benefiting that weakest, poorest person. Just contemplate that and then act. That's one Gandhian talisman which you can apply everywhere. Now, talking about certain values, they started with values because values shape the character, and then of this become one value, there's integrity, which is wholesomeness. So it is consistent uncompromising adherence. They talk about it, but because it talks about compromise at integrity, uh, no it shows that other qualities, however professionally good you may be, the compromised integrity, then every other quality is seen in doubt, whether it is professional or personal, public, corporate life. Good conduct and ethics are important. This moral conviction of one's beliefs and values must stay undiminished under all circumstances. As British writer C.S. Lewis has put it aptly, integrity is doing the right thing when nobody is looking. So this is about integrity perspective. And then, this may differ. The question of right or wrong may differ from person to person. So what can be done is here you can also talk about the role of intent. If it does so, intent is what? Is it to create harm or is it to create a positive thing? Good intent and mindfulness, whether to harm someone or no uncompromised values. So this is about values thing. The moral compass of individuals may fall differently in a spectrum of value system. So they may judge situations differently, perceiving morality or the scope to be lesser morals in given situations, and might remain inconsistent in the overall approach. So it may sound objective and prescriptive. So, but in the end, shows one's dependability. As I tell, if you tell the truth, you do not have to remember anything. And then talking about work ethics, brand value, and such things, and work culture, code of ethics, and such things. And then overall, this is over giving overall perspective about from the character perspective, from the individual perspective, values, and then from the organization perspective, and how we have to take decision that differ from one person to another. What is the intent? The intent matters here. So, and then the inconsistency. Yeah.